is crying out for change. We're headed towards a global crisis of our own making. Climate change, ecological collapse, and population expansion are threatening planetary boundaries as never before. We must urgently tackle these issues together. Entire habitats and ecosystems must be regenerated rather than trying to tackle issues in isolation. But in our increasingly populated urban centers, fragmented and disconnected from nature, how can we bring about such integrated and wide-scale transformation? This is London, set within the Thames Estuary. London is not exempt from the threats of climate change. In fact, within the estuary, the effects of climate change are particularly evident, including imminent sea level rise and flooding, with associated threats to property and infrastructure, and significant losses of internationally important habitats all along the coastline. London's not unique. Approximately 2/3 of the world's cities are located around estuaries, and the UN warns many may be underwater soon. Lisbon is also within estuary. This is our project site, South Essex. Our client, the Association of South Essex Local Authorities, tasked us with developing a green and blue infrastructure for the region. It spans 70,000 hectares and crosses 6 local authorities. So here we look to apply a living infrastructure approach that considers all of life, not only human, in the development process. A few years ago, I came across a quote in a book of Einstein's letters that has profoundly changed the way in which I see the world and provides a window into how we can transform our future. He says, "A human being is part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and all of nature in its beauty. It's merely a delusion that we're separate from nature, and it's this delusion that has limited our vision and led to so many of the world's challenges. To bring about urgent change, a radical paradigm shift is required." So the South Essex GBI, now known as SEEPARK, demonstrates how this radical paradigm shift can be transferred to the planning and development process. It shows that by opening our eyes to the whole community of life, we can liberate the creative intelligence of nature to steer a new course. And it shows that the application of landscape-led thinking, comprehensive analysis, bold vision, and long-term stewardship will manifest healthy communities and restore our planet. So how did we apply this way of thinking at SEEPARK? Well, first, rather than only focusing on human-centered and short-sighted gains, like a kid obsessed with their own image and oblivious to the world around them, we shifted from a portrait to a landscape view, from a human-centric gaze to a landscape lens that puts the whole community of life back in the frame: soils, water, air, plants and animals, and layered with people and our stories. How often do we see planning and development through the eyes of the land? And how often do we consider urban life from the perspective of our depleted soils, contaminated waters, polluted air, or a bird in the sky? Yet like the human body, when disease sets into one part of the body, the whole is destabilized. So it is with the land. When one part of the ecosystem is attacked and weakened, the whole system is weakened. And our planet's ecosystems are currently being attacked from every angle by human activity. Yet here we are, completely and utterly dependent on this precious web of life. So at SEEPARK, we started with the land. We spent months developing a comprehensive baseline, including numerous site visits, desktop research, and stakeholder engagement. And we layered this information through composite mapping and through a database in GIS to draw out overlaps, conflicts, and synergies between the layers. And we found that South Essex faces real and imminent challenges. From sea level rise and flooding, all of the areas shown in blue on this map are land that's subject to flooding in the near future, to internationally important habitat sites that are under threat of coastal squeeze from the sea level rising, to underperforming agricultural lands comprising 70% of the land area, to significant growth pressures and deprived communities with limited access to open space. And through this land analysis, exciting ideas became clear about how we can creatively layer ecosystem services in a way that transforms our most challenging areas into our greatest assets. So our analysis made it clear that we must go big and we must be bold. There's no time for business as usual and no time for small incremental change. The UN tells us that our future and the future of our children depends on large-scale transformation this decade before 2030. The SEEPARK strategy proposes a way forward and sets a revolutionary vision for tackling climate change, ecological collapse, and social inequity by embedding green and blue infrastructure at a regional scale. So SEEPARK reimagines this currently disconnected and fragmented place into a rich tapestry of world-class productive and dynamic landscapes. And to drive this vision, a series of objectives and 6 key moves were identified that evolved out of the objectives. They provide a robust direction that was translated into a spatial strategy and unifying framework. So the first key move is to establish regional parkland. So this is an overarching green and blue framework that safeguards and restores 23,000 hectares, or approximately 30% of the land area, greatly enhancing biodiversity net gain and acting as the region's backbone. Second is to build landscape connectivity. So an efficient network of routes from urban through to rural, promoting health and well-being for all the community members is included at SEEPARK, including life-sustaining corridors for the local wildlife. The third key move is to integrate water management systems. So SEEPARK proposes to reinstate thousands of hectares of absorptive wetlands and marshlands to protect local communities, important infrastructure, and significant coastal habitat sites. And integrated water management also permeates through urban areas. The fourth is harmonized agricultural use. So how we manage our farmland is key to planetary health. It can provide flood alleviation, nature restoration, massive carbon sinks, food security, and economic recovery, including tourism. So we've demonstrated farm-to-table experiences in the lower section. And this can all happen when farmland is sustainably managed. And they're also important for our wildlife and ecosystem health. So we must consider all residents in our plans and incorporate nature conservation in rural and urban environments. For example, through woodlands, hedgerows, wildflower meadows, green roofs, and green streets. They all provide important habitats and connectivity for our struggling wildlife. The fifth is to reveal unique landscape features. So South Essex has many features to be revealed, including iconic industrial structure, magical heritage sites, and spectacular skies. And so here we even developed a dark sky strategy for people to enjoy the stars and also to help ensure proper nocturnal functioning for local ecosystems. The final key move is to plan for growth and development. So with landscape infrastructure firmly in place, sustainable development opportunities easily fall into place too. Development is sited sensitively, set into the landscape rather than imposed on it, and development is not only protected, but greatly enhanced and supported in a way that brings about tremendous benefits, socially, environmentally, and economically. So SEEPARK is much more than a park. By turning our gaze back to the land, it provides a model of landscape infrastructure that rehabilitates our approach to planning and development, design, and points a way to a resilient, adaptable, and integrated future. I have a short video.